Is that going to be more commonly observed as we try to keep abreast with our transit systems?
Well, certainly bringing new technology into public transit is something we wrestle with all the time. You mentioned here in the Washington area an example in the air system. Let me give you one in transit. Many of us still think of the Washington Metro as brand new, and yet the first segments opened back in the 1970s. The technology, particularly in the communications, signals, electricity, the parts that people don't really see but are essential to make it run, is now 40-year-old technology. And so it is a continuing problem to keep your technology up to date, but you must do that, or as you say, you don't get the benefit from it. One of the things I've seen on my trips to Dallas is how Dallas START is working to keep their systems modern, keep their communication systems up to date, and that's the right way to do things. If you don't invest now, you know that old ad, you can pay me now or you pay me later. It's important that we reinvest in our systems, keep our technology up to date so that people can benefit greatly from these new systems.
Yes. And what makes it so important is that when we discover that something needs to be done in infrastructure, if we don't take care of it then, ultimately we're going to have to, and it's going to cost a lot more.
Yes.
How well is the public taking that if we don't go ahead and do what we can, it might cost a little bit more, but in the long run it saves money and saves lives because it's usually more safe.
Yeah. I think the public, when we take the time to explain what we're doing, too often we just assume that they understand, but why would they? We need to explain why we're doing things. Everybody understands in their own house that, you know, if the roof is leaking, you got to fix that roof before you put the new extension off the back of the house. And the same thing with our nation's transit systems. We need to make sure that we keep them in good repair, and people understand that, even if it means a little delay. But on a rail system, a lot of times the work can be done at night or on weekends when perhaps there's less usage on the system, so that we don't disrupt people going back and forth to work unless absolutely necessary. I find in my career that when you explain things to people, when you do sensible things that people say, yeah, that makes sense, then they are much more tolerant of it, they're much more willing to pay for it, and that's, we need to make sure that we have that communications piece, that we work with people as we work on these great projects.
You know, just recently we passed this Rescue and Reinvestment Act to try to stimulate jobs and stimulate our economy. Did the transit systems get what they think was their share?
Well, we never get what we think is our share. Even if we got it all, we'd probably want more, because America needs to invest more in transit. But certainly under this, what's commonly called the stimulus package, the economic recovery program, the Congress made over $8 billion available for public transit. As I travel around the country, I see projects under construction that wouldn't have happened. In the Dallas area, some of that money has gone to speed up the building on the rail system.
Yes.
In many communities, we're seeing older buses replaced with new hybrid electric buses that'll be not only provide a great ride, but better for the air and use less fuel. We're seeing a lot of construction projects. You know, for about every $1 billion that gets invested in public transit, over 30,000 jobs are created or sustained. And certainly what the Congress did was essential, and our members are busy all over the country putting that money to work, which puts people to work, which is, of course, what the goal of the whole economic stimulus program was.
Yes. Are you more sensitive to green? Everything now is headed in the direction of green for environmental protection.
Well, certainly public transit is the original green technology. 40 people on a bus, 80 people on a rail car is certainly better for the environment, uses less fuel than if you had 40 people driving 40 separate places. But we're doing things to green ourselves, to replace older, more fuel-consuming buses with new equipment, for example, hybrid electrics I mentioned, and things of that sort. Certainly the wave of the future is that people will continue to use their autos for some trips, but for many trips, public transportation will be just the thing for people to use.
And your challenge, your greatest challenge right now is financing, investment in it, or?
Yes, certainly that's it. I mean, we have ridership at record levels. People are saying we want more public transit, yet our revenues are down as well. Many transit systems rely on local sales taxes or other forms of general purpose government money, and because of the economy, those sources are down. So we're unfortunately seeing some systems have to raise their fares, and some have even had to cut back on service. So certainly the action the Senate took this past week in making some of that stimulus money available just to make sure that we can keep fares at affordable levels and keep the service out there and keep the people working. We're hopeful the House will pick up on that idea and that the President will sign it into law very soon.
Well, that's great. Well, this is a very exciting area to be in because you know that what you're doing is directly for the people. The people see the difference. They see the projects underway. They see the repair. It chagrins me when I know that we're at a point where bridges could collapse from neglect and all. And we've seen that happen. But hopefully we can prevent much of that in the future by investments in it. But we've got to get that money from somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly we'll be working with the Congress. I think it's important that people who want to see their local transit systems improve let their congressmen and their congresswomen know what their needs are. That's a good way. You know, another thing that's important to realize for perhaps the younger people who might be watching your show, this is a great field in which to get a job. It is an expanding field. It's a field where fortunately the jobs tend to pay pretty well, and so it's an exciting time to come into public transit. You can not only make a good living for yourself and your family, but you're improving the environment. You're helping to meet great national goals like reducing our reliance on foreign energy sources. You're helping people at the end of the day do what they wanted to do that day to make their life better. So I would encourage the young folks to be looking at public transportation as a great career option as well.
Sure. And, you know, that's one area where you don't have to guess what it's doing. You can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
And experience it. So it's really a very, very interesting area to be involved with. We're just about out of time, but I really thank you for coming. I'm very excited to see someone else really interested in transportation, because if we don't move people and goods, we have no economy.
That's true.
And we see other opportunities coming along where we'll even need more transportation systems than what we have now. And certainly it may be faster. But trade is one of my home areas' major economic opportunities, and that's going to get to be more because we have so many more people.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. We thank you for your leadership and your interest in transportation, and especially public transportation, and we do appreciate very much your work in this area.
Thank you. See you next week.
This has been another edition of Report from Washington featuring Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. You can reach Congresswoman Johnson at 202-225-8885 or 214-922-8885. You can also contact her through her website at http://www.house.gov/ebjohnson.